Chinese exclusion. After the completion of the Pacific Railway, the reputation of Chinese workers spread, and many railroad companies began to recruit laborers. With the increasing number of Chinese, by 1870, many industries in the United States had Chinese laborers. As a result, many Americans exclaimed that the Chinese had robbed their jobs. In the 1870s, a large-scale wave of Chinese exclusion broke out in the western United States, and many Americans repeatedly attacked Chinese residential areas with force. In addition, other ethnic groups, such as African Americans, also disliked the Chinese. It was in this historical context that Americans began to discuss how to restrict and suppress the Chinese. In 1878, there was an anti-Chinese immigration agitator by the name of Dennis Carney. Carney frequently gave long and caustic speeches, and he is known for ending all of his speeches with the sentence, "And whatever happens, the Chinese must go." In 1879, Wong Fu, a Chinese-American activist, went up repeatedly against Dennis Carney, heckling him and at one point challenging him in a duel and giving Carney a choice of a weapon: chopsticks, Irish potatoes, or Krupp guns. Laundromats. During the gold rush years from 1850 to 1860, there were 60,000 Chinese Americans living in San Francisco, California. This image displays the laundromat and grocery store operated by the Chinese in Chinatown. Los Angeles Chinese Massacre of 1871. On October 24, 1871, about 500 white and Hispanic American people rushed into Chinatown in Los Angeles. They attacked, harassed, robbed, and even murdered 18 Chinese, including a 12-year-old boy and a doctor, and 14 of them were killed by being hanged alive. Mass Chinese exclusion. In July 1877, a large-scale anti-Chinese riot occurred in San Francisco. White rioters smashed, destroyed, and looted Chinese-owned shops. They also set fire to Chinese residences and shot Chinese people on the street. The California government sent the National Guard and hundreds of volunteers to stop it. Finally, the federal government sent troops from the U.S. Navy to control the situation. In 1882, the United States Congress accepted the Chinese Exclusion Act submitted by Republican Senator John Miller, and the United States Congress launched a debate on this. Those who advocate Chinese exclusion believe that the Chinese have stolen the job opportunities of Americans, that the Chinese didn't believe in Christian ethics, and that the Chinese have many vices. Opponents of Chinese exclusion, however, argue that the introduction of such bill goes against the founding principles of freedom and equality in the United States and does not conform to the free immigration policy in the Burlingame Treaty between China and the United States. In the end, on May 6, 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was passed by Congress and signed by President Chester A. Arthur. This act provided an absolute 10-year ban on Chinese laborers immigrating to the United States. The picture shows the white laborers marching in San Francisco Square to let the Chinese workers leave. Rock Springs Massacre. On the morning of September 2nd, 1885, more than 10 white miners from Union Pacific Coal Company rushed to the No. 6 mining area and clashed with the Chinese miners. 3 Chinese workers were injured, and the conflict was temporarily quelled by the mine owner. Before long, more than 100 white miners assembled and attacked the No. 6 mine. They also surrounded the settlement of Chinese workers, looted property, and set fire to the residences of Chinese workers. Escape. Unprepared for the raid, hundreds of Chinese instinctively fled for their lives, with the thugs chasing and shooting behind them. The white spectators applauded and even participated in the robbery of Chinese workers in their houses. Some Chinese were shot to death on the spot, some were intercepted, beaten, and injured, and some were burned to death by the fire. According to the statistics after the incident, a total of 28 Chinese workers were killed and 15 were seriously injured. Rioters burned 78 Chinese homes, resulting in approximately $150,000 in property damage. The riot and resulting massacre of Chinese immigrant miners by white immigrant miners was the result of racial prejudice towards the Chinese miners, who were perceived to be taking jobs from the white miners. Where is the equality? In 1892, the Chinese Exclusion Act was extended for 10 years, and in 1904, the U.S. Congress passed a motion to extend the Chinese Exclusion Act indefinitely. The Chinese workers who contributed to the construction of the American railways and helped connect the country now had nowhere to go. Chinese head tax in Canada. In 1880, the Canadian government needed many Chinese laborers to build the Pacific Railway. As a result, 15,000 Chinese workers participated in nearly 5,000-kilometer railway line from Vancouver to Montreal, during which more than 5,000 Chinese workers sacrificed their lives. However, after the railway was completed ahead of schedule, Canadian Chinese workers also began to be crowded out. In 1885, the Canadian government passed the Chinese Immigration Act, which began to levy a poll tax on Chinese immigrants. The government charges $50 per person to Chinese arriving in Canada. The Canadian Chinese Exclusion Act came into effect on July 1, 1923, and was repealed by the Canadian government on May 14, 1947. Wong Kim Ark's case. Wong's parents are first-generation immigrants. He was born in the United States in the year of 1871. In 1894, when Wong was 23 years old, he went to China to visit relatives, but was refused entry to the U.S. When he returned in August the following year, he fought bravely and challenged the government's refusal to recognize his citizenship. And finally, the U.S. Supreme Court ordered Wong Kim Ark to be discharged and ruled in his favor. Since then, the fact that all U.S.-born people are U.S. citizens has been recognized. Angel Island Immigration Station. In 1906, a fire broke out in San Francisco, destroying many immigration files. Many Chinese claimed to be U.S.-born citizens and recruited their children from overseas to come to the U.S. In order to admit immigrants to the United States, California established the Angel Island Immigration Station in 1910. Many immigrants were detained on the island, subject to interrogation ranging from a few days to more than 2 years. 30% of Chinese immigrants were expelled back to China. The picture shows the Angel Island Immigration Station during the Chinese exclusion period. In 1940, the station was abandoned due to a fire.